Before every play in football, a quarterback shouts a random combination of colours and numbers. Blue 42, white 80, green 18. Signal calling, as it's known, is so old that most modern players probably don't know why they do it. So, this is why. The original form of football was basically rugby. It was chaotic and unstructured. A big cloud of dust within which there was basically just a scrum over the ball and little else happening. There were no signals because obviously there was no need. Enter Walter Camp. Camp was a halfback for the Yale Bulldogs until 1881 and later their coach, but he is credited with a series of innovations which really make him the father of American football. Camp conceived the line of scrimmage, changing the game from a rugby-like scrum to a possession sport. In 1882, he was responsible for the yardage lines of the field being introduced and the establishment of the 5-yard rule. To prevent teams from simply holding onto the ball for long periods, it was mandated that across 3 plays, they would have to either gain 5 yards or lose 10. Otherwise, they would surrender possession. That introduced more shape into the game, making it necessary to increase the quality of tactics and strategy. It placed new emphasis on communication during the game too, which is where Camp was again an influence. One day, before or during the 1882 season, Yale's football captain and 2 of his players made their way to see Camp at his home on campus to discuss game strategy. The new 5-yard rule placed particular emphasis on coordinating team effort to advance the ball, but huddles were yet to be invented. So how would the captain communicate the play to the rest of the team? Now, the occasional signal had been used in limited ways before, but at this meeting, more elaborate and extensive ones were discussed. Before the conversation was over, Camp wrote out a set to be distributed to Yale players, the first known written set. For instance, the call "Play Up Sharp Charlie" meant that when quarterback Deke Twombly received the snapback, he would pass it to the end for a sideline run. In all, 5 different signals were on the list, each of which had several variations through removing words. Some drew inspiration from the players' backgrounds. Twombly, who was Yale quarterback between 1881 and 83, remembered that, as boys playing in the Boston streets, Cheez-It was our well-known signal to look out for cops. Adapted by Twombly and Park, Cheez-It became the call for the right tackle, in the days before eligible receivers, to drop back behind the line to receive a quick pass from the quarterback. Twombly also remembered it working perfectly in a game against Princeton Tigers in November 1882, with tackle Doc Beck rushing for a touchdown. But these were relatively simple signals, and specific to the players giving and receiving them. They bear no relation to what's heard pre-snap today. Instead, that movement began around 1889, when Amos Alonzo Stagg, another grand old man of football, claimed to invent numerical signals during his 2nd year on the Yale varsity squad. Stagg would have a profound effect on the game, and is credited with a raft of innovations, including the tackle dummy, the lateral pass, and the Statue of Liberty play. But numerical signal calling caught on immediately, and quickly became increasingly complex. So much so, Stagg recalled that during the 1890s, football threatened to become an advanced course in mental arithmetic. And it was confusing to some too. In 1890, for instance, Missouri played its first football game against Washington University of St. Louis in front of a crowd of 3,000. And they ran into a surprise on the first play of the game when the Washington quarterback yelled out a series of numbers: 31, 49, 87, 12. The spectators and Missouri players were bewildered. They protested to the referee and the game was actually stopped, but ultimately the officials could find no rule against calling signals and sent the teams back out. And by the early 1900s, the number signals were everywhere in football. The huddle, as we know it today, was invented in 1894, but teams also started to audible to change the play calls at the line of scrimmage. So they added new wrinkles to the number signals, with a system of additions and subtractions which made them even harder to follow. Each play was typically assigned a number, so if a quarterback called play 28 in the huddle, but at the line wanted to change to play 29, he would simply call out add 1. A play called in the huddle could be changed by simply adding or subtracting numbers at the line. And then Terry Brennan, a first-year coach at Notre Dame, in 1954, had an idea to alter the dynamic and add a layer of misdirection: colours. Brennan might not have been the first to use colour numbers, but he was certainly the vanguard. He wanted to make the process easier for his players, noting that, particularly in the case of the linemen, time spent following calls pre-snap and doing the necessary arithmetic was taking their concentration away from their actual duty of blocking. In his system, each play called in the huddle was preceded by a colour. Red 43, for instance. That told all the players that red was the live colour, and that if the quarterback used any other colour called at the line, he was giving a dummy call. Conversely, any audible beginning with red was a live call that would actually change the play. By 1960, the colour number system that Brennan had helped bring into the game was used everywhere. And it still is, albeit in different ways. As time has passed and hand signals and specific audible words have been introduced into the game, the colour number system has lost much of its importance. Even so, many quarterbacks still use it and make the same call before each play. Patrick Mahomes says white 80 ahead of each snap, but that's really to help the linemen with their rhythm and timing. The colour number combination itself has little significance, beyond of course the history that it represents.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to the best team of sports writers, reporters, and analysts in the world, offering exclusive stories and unrivaled insight. You could try The Athletic for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.